Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a seriously chilling story about a sound, just a sound, that held an entire village hostage in a grip of absolute terror. We're talking about the haunting of bhairavpur and the mystery of the Ahat.
Okay, let's jump right in. This is the message, scrawled in blood, that kicks everything off. And this isn't just some empty threat, it's a promise. And it all leads back to this one single place, a haunted old mansion, the Bhairavpur Haveli, that's hiding a really dark secret.
So, our story starts in this kind of forgotten village, where this huge, crumbling mansion just looms over everyone. That's creepy. And it's the source of a sound they call the Ahat. Now, that word just means the sound of a footstep. Simple, right? But believe me, in bhairavpur, it means something so much worse.
Look, this isn't your average ghost story. We're talking about a whole series of terrifying encounters that have basically paralyzed the entire village with fear. And it all started when one person, just one, was brave enough or maybe foolish enough to step inside that mansion. From that moment on, the Ahat started picking its victims, one by one.
You know what's really wild is how the apparition was different for everybody. For one person, it's a shadow. For another, it's a full-on ghost with glowing eyes, or a whisper right in your ear. But the core experience? That was always the same. First, you hear the footsteps, and then comes the terror. And every new story just fed the fire, turning one person's fear into this contagious, collective panic.
So, with the village basically frozen in fear, the stories got so bad they just couldn't be ignored anymore. The authorities had to step in, and they sent an investigator to, debunk what they figured was just mass hysteria.
And in walks DCP Arvind. He shows up with all his logic and reason, a total skeptic, ready to tell everyone they're just imagining things. But his rational, by-the-book worldview was about to slam head-on into the village's terrifying reality. See, that old Haveli, it had a way of making believers out of everybody.
And this is the moment everything changes. For Arvind, it suddenly gets personal. That ghostly touch, that whisper, it doesn't just scare him, it gives him a mission. And just like that, he goes from being a debunker to the leader of the investigation, all because of his own terrifying first-hand experience.
So they realize, hiding from this thing, it's not working. The only way to stop the fear is to face it head-on, to find its source. And that meant walking right into the heart of the horror, following the ghost's own terrifying invitation. Okay, so now we get to the real climax of this whole investigation. The group steels themselves, and they get ready to go down into the darkness underneath the Haveli, into the cellar.
You can just imagine it. The atmosphere alone was a huge red flag. The second they pried open that old iron door, they get hit with this wave of cold, disgusting air. The cellar wasn't just empty, it felt evil. And of course, there was a message on the wall just waiting for them.
And there it is, written in blood. This wasn't just some random haunting. It was a deliberate, targeted curse. And as they're just standing there trying to wrap their heads around those words, a white, hazy ghost starts to actually form in the corner of the room. And this right here is the central horror of the whole story. The Ahat isn't a ghost you can see or a house you can just avoid. No, it's a curse that travels through sound. Think about that. The moment you hear those footsteps, it gets inside your head. The curse literally latches onto you, and there's no way to escape it.
And then finally, the spirit, Lalita, reveals the horrifying truth. 100 years ago, she was the lady of this very house, and she was murdered by her own husband. Buried alive, right here, in this cellar, all for greed. Her last screams, her last footsteps, they became this eternal echo. A curse born from an unimaginable betrayal.
So now they have the tragic backstory. And for a second, there's this little glimmer of hope. The group thinks, okay, if we know where the curse came from, maybe we can finally break it. So they come up with this simple but really desperate plan. They figure Lolita's body has to still be buried somewhere in that mansion. So what if they just burn the whole thing to the ground, destroy her physical remains, sever her connection to our world, and end the curse for good? It's a long shot, but it's all they've got.
And as they watch the Haveli burn, it actually seems like their crazy plan worked. For the next few days, bhairavpur is quiet, actually quiet. For the first time in years, the nights are completely silent. The fear is gone.
The villagers think they're finally free. But you knew it couldn't be that easy, right? Some curses, especially ones born from that much pain, they don't break so easily.
And here it is, the final chilling twist that just gets me every time. Days after they thought they'd won, Rena, one of the very first people to hear the ahat, is in her room, and she hears it again. They destroyed the house, right? The physical anchor of the curse. But they didn't destroy the haunt itself.
And that's really the terrifying takeaway from this whole story. The ahad was never just tied to the mansion, it was tied to the people who heard it. The story leaves us with this really unsettling idea that once you hear those footsteps, the fear never really leaves you. It becomes this shadow that follows you forever. Which leaves us with the final question. It's not about whether the curse can be broken, but can you ever truly unhear a sound that has already marked you as its own?